Hello and welcome to the Global Medical Course Online. We are very glad to announce this is our first video lecture for preparation of the USMLE exams. In this video we are going to talk about renal diseases, but in order to have a better understanding of pathophysiology of them, let me begin with functional anatomy and physiology of the kidneys briefly. As you know, the kidneys are the main excretory organs in the body and do a variety of functions to maintain the balance between different systems of the body. Nephrons are the functional unit of this system, which are in direct relation with the blood circulation, and every single one of them comprises of glomerulus, proximal tubule, loop of Henle, distal tubule, and finally collecting duct. As we see in this picture, most of these components are located in the cortex of the kidney. When the glomerular filtrate goes through their proximal convoluted tubule, a vast majority of required elements like vitamins, amino acids, glucose, phosphates, as well as bicarbonate ions, along with water are reabsorbed. On the other hand, organic acids and hydrogen ions are actively secreted into the proximal tubular lumen. In the descending segment of Henle, we expect to have a passive transport of water due to high osmolarity of interstitial fluid in the medulla of the kidney. Here is the location in which osmotic diuretics affect and cause diuresis. If we consider the thick ascending limb of the Henle, it is realized that one of the most important transporter proteins called sodium-potassium chloride cotransporter, also known as NKCC subtype 2, resides in the apical membrane of cell adjacent to the lumen and actively reabsorbs sodium, potassium, and chloride into the blood by the mechanism called secondary active transport, which is ATP dependent. This pump is regulated by aldosterone. Loop diuretics prevent the activity of this transporter as well, thereby losing sodium via urine and consequently reducing blood pressure. When we go further, the distal convoluted tubule is responsible for sodium, potassium, calcium, and pH regulation, as you see here in the picture. It is also a place where body hormones such as aldosterone, parathyroid hormone, special forms of kinase, and arginine vasopressin express their effects. For example, in terms of aldosterone, we could say that aldosterone causes sodium reabsorption and potassium secretion. In terms of calcium, PTH or parathyroid hormone enhances calcium reabsorption in this part of nephron. In addition, there are thiazide-sensitive sodium chloride cotransporter in the lumen side of the tubular cells, which are permeable to calcium. Here I should mention that the pharmacologic effects of potassium-sparing diuretics are exactly opposite to the impact of aldosterone. These diuretics either directly block epithelial sodium channels, as amiloride and triamterene do, or prevent proteins to be synthesized in response to the aldosterone, thereby inhibiting sodium reabsorption and potassium and hydrogen ion secretion, as spironolactone and eplerenone do. The final component of the nephron which influences the body fluid and electrolyte balance is collecting duct. In normal situation, It is responsible for almost 5% of both sodium and water reabsorption within the kidneys, whereas in severe dehydration, water reabsorption by these ducts goes up to 25% of total renal filtrates. As you remember from renal physiology, arginine vasopressin or antidiuretic hormone is the main hormone that takes its effect on this part by activation of aquaporin channels. So in a nephrogenic diabetes, for example, there is a lack of ADH effect on the aquaporin channels. So the renal filtrate ends up diuresis. It is worth here to say that aldosterone also contributes to the quantity of water reabsorption along with ADH. Now let's take a look at the renal structure and function in the next slide from another view. As we said earlier, nephrons are the basic functional units of the kidney, and there are 1 million nephrons per kidney. Two major components of nephron are glomerulus and attached tubule, which by default is divided into 4 segments based on the major physiologic functions that we discussed earlier in details. A glomerulus contains an afferent arteriole and an efferent arteriole. The direction of the blood flow, as you know, is from afferent arteriole towards efferent one. There are glomerular capillaries in between to establish a filtration layer by direct contact with the tubule. In addition to that, some capillaries from a network of vessels around tubule, which is called vasorecta. Eventually, all of them make a renal venule.